And find something nicer? My name's Eric. I'm 45 now, but this was 2 years ago. I thought that Christmas was finally going to be the one. The year I got a real win with my family. I'd just gotten promoted after nearly 20 years at the same HVAC company. Was finally running a crew. Better pay, more respect. And I was engaged to Melanie, the smartest, kindest woman I'd ever met. She worked at a middle school counseling kids through all kinds of hell. And she still made time to pack me lunch and check on my mom's blood pressure when she wasn't feeling right. Growing up, I was never the golden child. That title went to Leah, my big sister, the pediatric surgeon, the one Mom always bragged about at church. Then there was Nate, my younger brother, the golden boy with the six-pack and the Tesla. Opened a chain of fitness studios right before 30. Always had a tan, even in winter. Me? I was the one who worked. Got my GED, started as a tech at 17, never took a day off unless someone needed me. I fixed the roof after that big hailstorm, helped Nate draft his first gym lease, gave Dad rides to chemo for 6 months straight, while Leah couldn't leave the hospital, and Nate was busy building the brand. Nobody ever really said thank you. Not once. Still, I kept showing up, kept doing the right thing. Part of me thought maybe, just maybe, this time I'd get noticed. So that Christmas, I had a plan. I brought real gifts, not just store-bought junk. Hand-sanded wood coasters from reclaimed barnwood, a vintage cookbook I tracked down for Mom, custom tools for Dad, and in my coat pocket, Melanie's engagement ring. I was going to tell them everything. The promotion, the engagement. Hell, maybe they'd finally look at me like I was more than the family handyman, like I mattered. Quick note. Before we dive deeper, tell us in the comments. Where are you watching from today? And let's continue. But standing in that kitchen, holding that tray, all I got was a look of disappointment and a comment about my damn boots. I bit my tongue, set the tray down, and smiled. Good to see you too, Mom. She didn't even look up. Just called out, Leah's bringing wine. Real fancy stuff. And just like that, I knew the spotlight had already moved on. So I smiled, nodded, and followed Mom into the living room like I hadn't just been brushed off. I'd gotten good at that, swallowing stuff, biting back what I really wanted to say. Thing is, it didn't start that Christmas. It started way back in high school. I was always the one fixing stuff. Broken sink? I had it handled. Leah's car wouldn't start. I was under the hood before she finished complaining. Nate needed cash to take a girl out. I slipped him a 20 and told him to pay me back whenever, which of course he never did. I didn't get into fights, didn't cut class. I worked evenings and weekends at McDonald's just to help out with bills. Mom used to say, "You're steady, Eric." That's a good thing. But steady never got the brag at family dinners. That went to Leah, who started volunteering in hospitals at 16, or Nate, who could sell protein powder to a nun. I still remember coming home from work one night, grease-stained, exhausted, and hearing Mom on the phone with Aunt Marie. Leah's doing her residency now. Nate's building his brand. Eric, oh, he's still doing something with air conditioners. Something. Like I was just floating through life with a wrench in my hand, and no plan at all. Never mind I was the one keeping the damn AC running during Arizona summers. When Dad had his second surgery, gallbladder I think, I took 2 weeks off work to be there. Drove him to every follow-up. Cleaned the house, cooked what Mom couldn't, managed his meds. Leah, she's got surgeries scheduled. Can't just cancel them. Nate, he's in expansion mode. You know how it is. But nobody asked how I was doing. Not once. Mom just said, "You've always been the dependable one, Eric. I don't have to worry about you." Which I guess was supposed to be a compliment. Felt more like a dismissal. And that wasn't a one-time thing. During COVID, when Nate's business nearly tanked, guess who paid part of his back rent? I wired him $1,500 without blinking. Mom said, "Good brothers help out." No one asked if I could afford it. No one offered to pay me back. Leah once called me out of the blue, said she was behind on a student loan payment. Just this one time, Eric. That one time was $1,000. I never mentioned it again, but she did. to our cousin, like it was some charity she'd been forced to accept. Said she was embarrassed I even had that kind of money saved, as if me having savings was an insult to her degree. But I kept showing up. Every holiday, every call, every time something needed fixing or hauling or replacing. Part of me believed that if I just kept doing right by them, they'd see it eventually. That I'd stop being the guy they leaned on and start being the guy they looked up to. Sometimes I'd sit in my truck outside their house and give myself a little pep talk before walking in. "They're going to be proud of you today," I'd say. "They're finally going to see who you are." They never did. Even when I bought my first truck, fully paid off, by the way. Dad said, "You sure you can handle those payments?" I said, "No payments, Dad. Bought it outright." He raised an eyebrow. "With HVAC money?" Like I was running a side hustle or something. It was always like that. Me explaining myself. Them acting like my whole life was a fluke that hadn't unraveled yet. But that Christmas, I really thought things would be different. I was done waiting for a moment to happen on its own. I was going to make one. I reached into my coat pocket, felt the ring box still tucked in there, and told myself, "This is the year they'll finally see what you've built." I held the ring box a little tighter in my coat pocket as I walked up the driveway that morning. The porch still had that cheap plastic snowman Mom pulled out every year. I was early on purpose. Wanted to help with setup, maybe get a quiet moment to connect. Dad opened the door first. Big grin, pulled me into a hug. "You're the first one here. That's your truck parked out front?" "Looks good, son." I smiled. "Merry Christmas, Dad." Then Mom appeared behind him, eyeing me head to toe like she was scanning for mold. "Those boots look old, Eric. Couldn't find something nicer." I laughed it off. "They're work boots, still good." She didn't smile, just turned and walked back inside. I stepped into the kitchen, placed the box of gifts on the counter. The cinnamon rolls were still warm. I'd made them fresh that morning. Melanie couldn't come this year. Her family had their own thing in Flagstaff. But she'd help me pick out every gift. Real thought went into them. None of that gift card garbage. An hour later, Leah pulled up in her white BMW like she was pulling into a damn magazine shoot. Came in wearing some fancy camel-colored coat and heels like she wasn't spending the day in a house with shag carpet and squeaky kitchen chairs. She handed Mom a sleek, wrapped box and said, "It's a wine subscription. Sommelier curated." Mom's eyes lit up like a kid on Christmas. "Oh my goodness, Leah. How fancy." Nate arrived right behind her with gym bags for everyone, his logo slapped on hoodies, water bottles, and shaker cups. He held them up like a game show host. "Merry Fitmas, family!" Everyone laughed. Dad even raised his glass. "Look at this entrepreneur!" I stood there holding my wrapped gifts like a fool. When it came time to open presents, I handed Dad a long box. "Custom wrench set. Engraved handles, should last you forever." He nodded, turning one over. "Heavy duty, nice." No smile, no excitement. I gave Mom the vintage cookbook, one she used to check out from the library in the 80s. I hunted it down on eBay, paid more than I should have. She flipped through a few pages and said, "Oh, cute, but I mostly cook keto now." Then came the coasters. I'd made them by hand from old barnwood I found up north. Sanded them, stained them, even burned in the family initials. Leah picked one up like she was holding a bug. "These are cute, like little craft fair things." That was it. Mom was already shifting the conversation. "So, Nate, how many clients now? You were at 100 last month, right?" I sat back, listening to Nate go on about brand growth and expansion goals, while Mom nodded like she was interviewing him for Forbes. Leah jumped in with some story about a surgery she performed on a 6-year-old, used words I hadn't heard since sophomore biology. Dad clapped. I waited, let the moment settle, then cleared my throat. "Actually, I got promoted this month. Running the install team now, full supervisor title." They glanced at me. Dad gave a little clap. "Well, look at that." Leah nodded once. Nate said, "Nice, man." Then Mom leaned forward, eyebrows lifted. "Leah, didn't your interview air last week? On that health segment? What was that doctor's name again?" Leah lit up. "Dr. Ramirez. We did a pediatric lung segment. National audience." Mom smiled wide. "Now that's impressive." "That was it. My promotion got maybe 5 seconds. Then gone, like a puff of steam in winter air." I looked down at the ring box in my pocket, heart thudding. Still planned to tell them later. Wasn't going to let the moment be ruined by their usual crap. But I felt the first crack right then. Like maybe I'd been kidding myself thinking this would go any different. Dinner came, ham and green beans and mashed potatoes, the usual spread. We sat around the long table with the ugly plastic tablecloth Mom insisted on using every year, the one with Santa on a sled and little sparkles that got everywhere. I waited until plates were cleared, until the noise died down a little, cleared my throat again. "So, I've got one more bit of news." Mom looked up. "You're not switching jobs, are you?" "Number, I'm getting married." Silence for half a beat. Then Nate raised a glass. "Congrats, man." Leah blinked. "Oh, wow. Didn't know that was coming." Dad smiled, looked caught off guard. "To Melanie, I'm guessing?" "Yeah. Asked her in September. She said yes." Mom stared. "September? That was months ago. I wanted to tell you in person." She leaned back, took a sip of wine. "And she said yes to you?" Then laughed. "What's she after? Free heating in the winter." Nobody else laughed. And just like that, the little sliver of hope I'd held on to, gone. Nobody else laughed, not even Dad. Mom tried to sip her wine like it was just a joke, but her eyes didn't move off me. She was dead serious, and everyone knew it. I kept my voice steady. "She's a school counselor, works with kids who don't have much at home. She loves the work." Nate raised an eyebrow. Like that explained something. "So, not big money then?" I stared at him. "No, not big money, but she's the best person I've ever met." He shrugged, looked down at his phone. Then Mom, under her breath but not quiet enough, muttered, "Don't see what kind of woman wants to marry a man like Eric." I froze. My chest tightened like a clamp had locked onto my ribs. I looked at her, waiting for her to backpedal. She didn't. Dad shifted in his chair. "Carol," he said. One word, that's all. Even Leah looked up from her screen. "Wait, what did you just say?" I stood up slow, pulled out my phone and unlocked the screen. Didn't even raise my voice. "Then maybe stop calling me every time the furnace breaks down or the car needs new tires." Mom's jaw twitched, but she didn't say a word. I scrolled through my recent calls and held the phone up. 3 calls this month. 1 for the dishwasher, 1 for Dad's truck battery, 1 because the garage door remote felt off. I looked around the table. "But you don't think I'm worth marrying?" Dad rubbed his forehead. "Jesus, Carol, that was out of line." "Don't you start," she snapped back. "I didn't mean it like that." "You said it," I cut in. "You meant it." Leah looked around, caught between disbelief and embarrassment. "Seriously, Mom, that's what you think of him?" Mom set down her glass hard. "You all know how Eric is. He's always been simple." That word hit like a punch. Simple. Not strong, not loyal, not hard-working, just simple. Like I was someone to be pitied. I raised the phone again. "You want to know what simple looks like? I'm the one who changed your tires during the monsoon. I'm the one who fixed Dad's lift chair when it jammed. The one who rewired the entire breaker box so you didn't burn this place down last summer. But you don't see a woman choosing me without some angle?" Mom went quiet. Nate stared down at his water like it had secrets in it. Leah leaned forward. "You've been with Melanie how long?" 4 years. Been serious for 3. She nodded slow, actually processing that. "You never told me." "Because you never asked." Nate looked up. "You're really getting married?" "Yep. Spring wedding. Already booked the venue. He blinked. Damn. That was all he had. Mom finally spoke. Well, I'm sorry if I came off harsh. Harsh? I snapped. That wasn't harsh. That was cruel. She folded her arms. You think we haven't all sacrificed for this family? I didn't say you didn't. I said you don't respect mine. Dad tried to cut in. Let's just all calm down. No, I said. I've been calm for 43 years. That's done. Leah stood up, pushing her chair back. You know what? He's right. She pointed at Mom. You act like he's just some guy who shows up when things break. But he's always been there. For you. For Dad. For Nate. Hell, he gave me money for a loan I forgot about. I turned my head. You remembered that? Not until just now. I thought Dad helped me. He didn't. I did. She swallowed hard. Jesus. Mom glanced between us, her face starting to crack. You think I don't love you, Eric? I shook my head. You love the version of me that never asks for anything. The handyman, the errand boy, the backup plan. But when I ask for something real, your respect, your support, you laugh. Silence fell over the table again. Everyone looked small, shrinking, like they were finally realizing how much they'd taken without saying thanks. I didn't wait for permission. I walked to the tree, grabbed Melanie's ring box from under the coat I'd draped on the couch, and held it up. She said yes because she sees me, not just what I do, who I am. And honestly, I don't care if that doesn't impress you. I slipped it back into my pocket, turned, and looked my mom dead in the eyes. But I'm done proving my worth in this house. Nobody moved. Nobody said a damn thing. It was like I'd flipped the table without touching it. I pulled out my phone again, opened my banking app, and held it up. You want to talk about who's worthy in this family? Let's talk numbers. Dad leaned forward, confused. Nate and Leah just stared. Mom looked like she wanted to get up and disappear. I scrolled to my monthly auto transfers. See that line right there? $900 every month. That's been going to cover your mortgage since the pandemic. 3 years now. No missed payments. Mom's mouth opened. Nothing came out. I kept going. You remember when Dad's insulin wasn't fully covered last year? That was $2,200 out of my pocket. Dad blinked. You paid that? I nodded. Who else do you think covered it? He looked down at the table, quiet. And Nate, I turned toward him. You remember that month your gym lease almost got pulled during COVID? Who spotted you $1,500 to keep the lights on? He squinted. I thought, Dad helped me. Nope. Me. Through Zelle. Check your inbox. He pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, then looked up like he'd seen a ghost. I shifted to Leah. You were in a bind with your student loan. Called me in tears. Said you just needed to float the minimum. $1,000. No payback needed. You never mentioned it again. Leah swallowed. I thought that was Dad, too. I just assumed... Right. You all assumed it came from the guy who barely checks his voicemails. You didn't even think to ask. Just took it and moved on. Mom finally snapped. Well, you said you wanted to help. I turned to her. I wanted to be respected, not turned into the family ATM. She crossed her arms tight. That's not fair. No, Mom. What's not fair is me holding this whole family together while being treated like I'm the damn loser. I walked over, set the phone down on the table. The screen still showed the transaction history, bright and cold. You all think I've got the small job, the guy who works with his hands, who didn't go to college, who drives a used truck and wears scuffed boots. But guess what? I tapped the phone. I'm the one keeping your mortgage on track. I'm the one covering medical bills, business bailouts, and forgotten loans. Nate let out a shaky breath. Dude, I didn't know. I swear, Leah whispered. Wait, you paid my loan? I looked at her. Every damn cent. Dad finally spoke, voice low. Why didn't you tell us? Because I didn't want it to be a big deal. I thought if I kept showing up, kept helping, maybe eventually you'd see me differently. But today, hearing what Mom said, that did it. Mom still looked defensive. I never asked you to do all that. You chose to. Yeah, I said. I chose to because I thought it would matter. Thought it'd mean something. Silence again. Aunt Linda, who'd been sitting near the end of the table this whole time not saying much, finally spoke up. I always knew you did more than you got credit for, Eric. She shook her head. Your mom has just never seen it. Too busy polishing the others. Mom's eyes snapped to her. Don't start with me, Linda. Aunt Linda didn't flinch. Don't worry, Carol. I'm done starting. I'm just sitting back now and watching the truth finally catch up. Dad cleared his throat, looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. I had no idea, and that's on me. It's on all of you, I said. You built this little family myth where Leah's the hero, Nate's the genius, and I'm just the guy who tightens bolts. But the truth is, I've been the one holding this place together, quietly, without applause, and all I've gotten for it is sideways comments and jokes at my expense. Mom sat back in her chair, lips pressed tight, but for once she didn't argue. I looked at each of them, one by one. You want to know why Melanie said yes to me? Because she sees what I do, and she respects who I am. Not what I earn, not what car I drive, not how many degrees I don't have. She sees me. Leah looked like she might cry. Nate looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. I'm not asking for a damn trophy, I said. I'm asking for basic respect. The same kind you've handed out freely to each other for doing less. Nobody had anything left to say. I picked up my phone, slid it back in my pocket, and walked toward the front door. Where are you going? Dad asked. Out. I need air. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. And if any of you think I'm going to keep showing up just to be insulted, you've got another thing coming. I'd barely taken 2 steps toward the door when Mom's voice followed me, desperate and shaky. Eric, can we talk? Just us? Please in private. I turned around, hand still on the knob. Number, you didn't shame me in private. I'm not explaining in private. Her face flushed. That's not fair. Fair? You humiliated me in front of everyone. Now you want a quiet corner to clean it up? Not happening. Dad looked at her like he didn't even recognize the woman sitting next to him. Carol, what the hell is wrong with you? She blinked, mouth open like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. Aunt Linda, who usually kept her mouth shut through everything, leaned forward, slow and steady. I always knew Eric did more than he got credit for. She looked right at Mom. You've been blind to it for years. Mom flinched like she'd been slapped. I turned back to the rest of them. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I felt solid, like I'd finally stepped into something that had been waiting for me all along. Melanie and I are planning our wedding, I said. Anyone who shows up without respect can stay the hell home. Leah opened her mouth, but I didn't give her the chance. I'm serious. No more fake smiles. No more backhanded compliments. If you think I'm still the one you get to dump your problems on without a thank you, don't even RSVP. Nobody moved. Nate looked frozen. Dad just stared at his lap. I grabbed my coat from the hook by the door, shrugged it on, and stepped outside without another word. Cold air hit me like a slap. I didn't care. I kept walking to the truck, climbed in, and slammed the door shut. My hands finally started shaking again. I gripped the steering wheel, leaned forward, and let out a long, cracked breath I didn't even know I'd been holding. Then my phone buzzed. Melanie. I answered on the first ring. Hey! She heard it in my voice right away. What happened? I swallowed hard. It blew up. All of it. I told them about the money, the help, everything I've done. It got real ugly. Silence for a second. Then, are you okay? Yeah, I said, even though I wasn't. Number, not really, but I think I needed it. I'm coming over, she said. I'll be there in an hour. Already packing a bag. I closed my eyes and leaned my head against the window. You sure? She didn't even pause. You finally stood up for yourself. I'm not letting you sit in that alone. That's when it hit me. I'd never said no to them before. Not really. Not when they needed money. Not when they needed a ride or a favor or a fix. But I had now. And I meant it. I stayed in that truck for 20 more minutes, just breathing, letting it all settle. The house behind me was still glowing with fake holiday cheer. The plastic snowman, the string lights flickering in the bushes, like nothing had happened inside. But something had happened. And for once, I wasn't the one who had to pretend otherwise. When I finally pulled out of the driveway, I didn't look back. Melanie met me at the door that night with 2 beers and a hug that lasted longer than any conversation I'd had with my mom in 10 years. I didn't cry. I didn't break down. But for the first time, I let someone hold me while I was still in pieces. We sat on the couch, legs tangled, and watched reruns of The Office like it was any other night. But it wasn't. It was the night I stopped chasing approval from people who never saw me clearly to begin with. Melanie didn't ask for details. She just listened when I felt like talking and kept my hand in hers the whole time. At one point, she looked over and said, "I'm proud of you." That hit harder than I expected. Not because she said it, but because it wasn't tied to what I did for someone. It was just about me. Later that night, laying in bed beside her, I realized something simple but real. I wasn't scared anymore. Not of disappointing them. Not of losing them. Because if they couldn't respect the man I'd become, then maybe they were never worth that much to begin with. Saying no to your family? It's the hardest thing in the world. But once you do it, and mean it, everything changes. And for the first time, I was ready to let that change happen. The next morning, my phone rang just after 9. Dad's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer. But I did. His voice was quiet. No background noise, no TV blaring like usual. I had no idea, Eric, about any of it. I'm so sorry. And you know what? He sounded like he meant it. I wasn't hiding it, Dad, I said. Nobody ever asked. He let that hang in the air. You've done more than I ever realized. I should have said something sooner. Yeah, I said. You should have. We didn't get into the deep stuff, but he said he was proud of me. Not for the money, not for fixing stuff, just for being who I was. That part hit different. About an hour later, Nate called. Hey, man. Listen, I looked at the transfer. Saw your name. That was really you? Yeah. I owe you big time. I can pay it back now. Want me to Venmo it? I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. It's not about the money. He paused. Then what? It's about respect, I said. Start there. He was quiet, then finally said, You're right. I've been a dick. Yeah, you have. But for the first time in years, I didn't hear the cocky Jim voice. Just Nate, my little brother, trying to do something right. Later that day, I got a text from Leah. Just said, Hey, can we talk? I waited until the next morning before answering. We met for coffee at a quiet little spot near her hospital. She showed up late, in scrubs, no makeup, no attitude. Sat down with her hands wrapped around her cup like she needed to hold on to something. I didn't know about the loan, she said. I know. I assumed Dad did it. Didn't even cross my mind it could have been you. Exactly. She looked away. I'd been so wrapped up in my own life, I didn't see any of it. You didn't want to see it? She winced. You're right. We sat there a while, not saying much. Then she looked me in the eye and said, I'm sorry. That was the first time I'd ever heard those words from her. But the biggest storm was still brewing. 7 voicemails in 2 days. All from Mom. First one, defensive. I think you're overreacting, you're just emotional. Second, annoyed. It's Christmas, Eric. This isn't the time for drama. third, fourth, and fifth, full panic. You're really not answering? After everything I've done for you? The sixth was quieter. Just a short, please call me. The seventh broke me a little. I'm sorry, Eric. I am. I didn't know how much I hurt you. I stared at my phone for a long time before calling her back. She picked up on the first ring. Eric? Yeah. Oh, thank God. I didn't know if you'd call. I'm only calling to say what I need to say. So let me talk. Silence. You made me feel worthless for decades. You made me believe that no matter what I did, I'd never measure up, that I wasn't enough. Eric, don't interrupt. She stopped. The money? That was just the final straw. I gave and gave and gave. And not once did you stop to think about what that cost me. You joked about my job, about Melanie, about me, and I sat there and swallowed it because I thought that's what family did. She sniffled, but I didn't let up. I'm not doing it anymore. No more loans. No more guilt trips. No more calls when the water heater makes a weird noise. I wasn't trying to guilt you. Maybe not with words, but you knew exactly what you were doing. More silence. Then she whispered, I didn't think you'd ever leave. I didn't either, I said, but I finally figured it out. You want me in your life? You treat me like I matter. If you can't do that, then we're done. She tried to speak again, but I ended the call before she could shift the blame. I wasn't going to let her wiggle out of it, not this time. That night, Grandma Gloria called, 84 years old, and still sharper than most people half her age. I heard what happened, she said. About time. I laughed, even though I was still pissed off. You're not shocked? Please, I've watched your mama treat you like a workhorse for years. She ever say anything to you? She didn't need to. I saw it plain as day. You've done more for this family than both your siblings combined. And you never asked for credit. I sat back in my chair, felt that wall I'd been leaning on my whole life finally start to crumble. She'll come around, Grandma said. But that don't mean you gotta make it easy for her. I smiled. Thanks, Grandma. You keep that woman of yours close, she added. She's the only one of us who knew your worth from day one. I hung up feeling clearer than I had in years. My family was still my family. But now they were going to meet me on my terms, or not at all. I didn't think life could change that fast, but it did. Once I cut off the handouts, it was like a hole stopped leaking in my wallet. I started seeing real money in my account. Money I didn't have to loan out, explain, or chase down. Within 3 months, Melanie and I were running numbers for a house. 6 months later, we signed on a 3-bedroom in Gilbert. Good bones, big garage, backyard with enough space for a grill and a fire pit. We put 20% down, and for the first time in my life, I didn't need help from anyone. That first night, standing in our kitchen with boxes still stacked and takeout on paper plates, I felt something settle in my chest. Peace, maybe, or pride. Probably both. I slept better, ate better, laughed more. Melanie said I didn't grind my teeth at night anymore. I started waking up before the alarm, without dread crawling up my back. Work got easier too. With less stress, I actually had energy again. I started mentoring the younger techs, showing them how to handle tricky installs, how to talk to customers without sounding like a robot. A few weeks in, my manager pulled me aside. We're putting together a training program. I want you running it. That came with a bump in pay and a title that finally meant something. For the first time in years, I felt like I was seen. Dad started calling on Saturdays. Not to ask for anything, just to talk. Sometimes about football, sometimes about Mom, sometimes just to see how I was doing. He'd ask how the house was coming along. Told me he was proud of how I'd handled things. I didn't step in when I should have, he said one afternoon. That's on me. But I see it now, Eric. All of it. I believed him, or at least I wanted to. That was enough to keep picking up when he called. One afternoon, Leah showed up at the new house. No heads up, just pulled into the driveway in jeans and a hoodie, hair in a ponytail, no camera smile, no big speech. I met her at the door. She looked around, gave a low whistle. "Nice place." "Thanks." She kicked at the concrete with her sneaker. "I didn't know how bad it was for you. I should have." I crossed my arms. "Took you long enough." She looked up. "I'm trying to do better." We didn't hug or anything, but I let her in. We talked. She asked questions, real ones, about the house, about the job, about Melanie, not in a fake let me pretend to care kind of way. She stayed for an hour, didn't once check her phone. That same week, Nate texted me out of nowhere. "You home Saturday? Got some tools I want to bring over. Help with the garage." I stared at that text for a while. Couldn't remember the last time he offered to do anything without being asked. He showed up right on time, toolbox in hand, wearing one of his own branded hoodies like always. But his tone was different. No jokes, no flexing. We installed shelving, hung hooks, patched up a crack in the drywall. Halfway through, he said, "You've done a lot for all of us, way more than I ever noticed." I nodded. "Yeah, I know." He wiped his hands on a rag and looked me in the eye. "You were right to call us out." Hearing that didn't fix everything, but it meant something. He was trying, and this time I could feel it. Even Melanie noticed. "You look lighter," she said one night as we sat on the couch eating chips straight from the bag. "I feel lighter," I told her, "like I finally cut the weight off my ankles." The best part? I didn't miss the old dynamic. I didn't miss being the fixer, the cleaner-upper, the one holding everything together while getting scraps of recognition. Now, if the phone rang, it was because someone wanted to talk, not because something broke. Mom hadn't called much. A few texts, a birthday card with no money inside, just a note that said proud of you. That was fine. I wasn't in a rush to let her all the way back in. Boundaries stayed up. Respect first. Access second. Melanie backed every choice. Never once told me to let it go, or be the bigger person just to keep the peace. "You did enough of that," she said. "Now you protect your own peace." One weekend we sat in lawn chairs on our patio, sun going down, dogs barking in the distance. I watched the lights flicker on inside the house and thought, this is what home's supposed to feel like. No strings, no shame, just steady. And I wasn't waiting for someone else to validate it. That part of my life was over. We kept it small. No massive venue, no Instagram decorations. Just close friends, some co-workers, a few family members who'd earned their seat, people who showed up when it mattered, people who saw me. The ceremony was in a backyard in Chandler. White chairs, string lights, nothing fancy, just real, honest, United States. Melanie looked stunning in this simple lace dress. Nothing loud, just her. Hair pulled back, smile soft but solid. The kind of look that said, I know exactly what I'm doing. I stood there in my suit, hands a little sweaty, heart calm for once. Not because there wasn't pressure, but because I finally knew I belonged where I was. Dad sat in the front row, next to Grandma Gloria, Leah on one side of him, Nate on the other. Mom was there too, tight-lipped and stiff at first, but she showed up. I'll give her that. When the vows were done and we kissed and everybody clapped, I could see it in Melanie's eyes. Relief, joy, peace. Like we'd crossed a finish line no one else even knew we were racing. At the reception, the food was barbecue and baked mac and cornbread. The kind of meal people actually eat. Nothing plated with garnish. I wanted comfort food, not a tasting menu. After we ate, Dad stood up to speak. Didn't use notes. Just looked out at everyone, holding a glass of sweet tea. I haven't always said the right things, he started, but today I need to say something clear. Eric's been the glue in this family. Quietly, steadily, without asking for anything in return. I'm proud to be his dad. He sat down slow, like the words had cost him a little. Grandma reached for his hand, squeezing it hard. I glanced over at Leah. Her eyes were glossy. She caught me looking and mouthed, "You deserve this." Even Mom, who'd spent half the year pretending nothing happened, sat frozen with her lips pressed tight, and her shoulders tense like she was holding an emotion she didn't know how to release. Then Nate stood. He adjusted his tie and walked up front. "I wasn't supposed to be the best man," he said. "Honestly, I didn't think I deserved to be. But Eric told me he picked me because he believed in second chances. Said he wanted to give me the chance to earn it." He looked right at me. "I'm still earning it, and I will. But I've never respected anyone more than I respect my big brother." The crowd clapped. Leah actually wiped her eye. Grandma nodded like she'd been waiting years to hear someone say it. And me? I just stood there, solid. For once, not trying to hold everything together, just letting it be. As the night went on, people danced, laughed, passed around plates of peach cobbler. The backyard buzzed with real warmth. Not that fake family show we used to put on for holidays. This wasn't about appearances. It was about presence. At one point, Melanie and I stepped away from the crowd, stood under the string lights near the back fence. Her hand found mine. Software warm, real. She leaned in, whispered, "You did it." I looked around. At the house. At the people still laughing at the table. At the space we'd created, not just with money or effort, but with truth. "I really did," I said, "because I wasn't just a groom or a husband or a provider. I was finally someone who got to exist without proving my worth every second. Someone they were proud to stand beside, not just lean on." The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the garage organizing my socket sets when my phone rang. Mom. For a second, I hesitated, but I answered. Her voice was calm, lighter than usual. "I just wanted to say I'm proud of you, Eric." That's all she said at first. No request, no guilt trip, no, "while I have you ask" at the end. I didn't know what to say, honestly. She went on. "I was talking to a friend from church, told her about your promotion, the training program, the raise, all of it. Told her how well you've done. I should have said it more before. I didn't. I'm sorry." I leaned against the workbench, phone pressed to my ear, looking out at the driveway. "I appreciate that," I told her. "Really. But I don't need it anymore." That was the difference. I wasn't fishing for her approval. I wasn't starving for her praise. I had a full life without it. She didn't push. Just said, "Well, I'm glad you're happy." And we hung up. That weekend, Leah and Nate came by. Unplanned. Just rolled up in Nate's truck with a cooler and some burgers. We grilled in the backyard, sat around the fire pit drinking beers and talking about everything and nothing. Football, Leah's ridiculous new cat, Nate's latest gym expansion. There was no tension, no measuring tape, no performance. Nate flipped a burger and said, "This your grill setup? Or did Melanie build it?" I smirked. "All me." He laughed. "Damn. You've actually got your life together." Leah raised her beer. To Eric, the one who figured it out before the rest of us caught up. We all clinked bottles. No sarcasm, no side-eye. Just respect. I still keep boundaries. I still say no when I need to. And I don't feel bad about it. When Mom asked if I could fix her leaky sink last month, I gave her a number for a plumber. She didn't argue. I don't explain myself anymore. I don't shrink to keep the peace. I don't twist myself into the version of a son or a brother that makes everyone else more comfortable. The biggest win wasn't the apology. It wasn't even the wedding. It was realizing I didn't need their approval to be happy. I've got a good woman, a house we built without help, friends who show up, and a life that doesn't require me to prove my worth every damn day. That Christmas breakdown, the one where I stood up and finally said what I needed to say, that was the beginning of everything. Sometimes the only way to earn respect is to stop settling for less. And once you do, the whole game changes. Have you ever had to draw a hard line with your family to get real respect? Drop your story in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.